Hey Vikings Nation, stop everything, because what just happened in the NFL might quietly be one of the best pieces of news the Minnesota Vikings could have asked for. And it didn't even happen in Minnesota. This is one of those ripple effect moments that could reshape how we look at the future of this team. And trust me, when I tell you this involves big money, record-breaking numbers, and Justin Jefferson, you already know this is serious. Because early Monday morning, the league woke up to a bombshell. A massive wide receiver contract just reset the market in a way that nobody saw coming this fast. And while most fans are focused on the headline, Vikings fans, we're looking deeper and realizing this could be a massive win. So the question is simple. How does another team spending huge money actually make the Vikings look smarter than ever? Stay with me because this gets very interesting. The Seattle Seahawks just made history by locking in Jackson Smith-Njigba with a massive 4-year extension worth $168.6 million. That's not just a big deal. That's a record-breaking deal. We're talking about $42.15 million per year, with over $120 million guaranteed. Let that sink in for a second. This contract doesn't just make headlines. It resets the entire wide receiver market across the NFL. Every GM, every agent, every elite receiver is now looking at this number as the new standard. And here's where things flip for the Vikings. Because suddenly, a deal that once looked massive now looks like a bargain. Not long ago, Justin Jefferson signed his extension with the Minnesota Vikings, and at the time, it made him one of the highest-paid receivers in the league. Some people even questioned the price tag. Was it too much? Was it risky? Fast forward to now. And that narrative is completely changing. Because with this new deal in Seattle, Jefferson is no longer at the top of the financial mountain. Instead, he's now sitting at number 3 in average annual value, and that changes everything. Right now, the updated list of the highest-paid wide receivers tells a fascinating story. Jackson Smith-Njigba leads at $40.15 million per year. Ja'Marr Chase follows at $40.25 million. And Justin Jefferson? He's at $35 million annually. That means the Vikings are paying significantly less than the top of the market for a player many believe is still the best wide receiver in football. Think about that. You might have the best player at the position, and he's not even the most expensive anymore. That's a front office win. And it gets even better when you look at the structure of Jefferson's deal. While his average annual value has dropped in comparison, he still brings in massive guaranteed money, arguably the most secure financial structure among elite receivers. That's the kind of smart contract design that keeps a team competitive long-term. It gives flexibility, creates breathing room, and it allows the Vikings to build around him. And guess what? The Vikings already took advantage of that flexibility this offseason. Minnesota recently restructured Jefferson's contract, lowering his cap hit and giving the team more room to operate. That's huge, because in today's NFL, cap space is everything. You want to build a contender? You need flexibility. You need smart financial planning. And right now, the Vikings are quietly positioning themselves to do just that. So while other teams are now scrambling to keep up with this exploding market, Minnesota is already ahead of the curve. But that's only half the story. Because while one receiver's contract is making headlines, another Vikings receiver is starting to generate serious buzz. For a completely different reason. Jordan Addison. Now this is where things get a little more complicated. And a lot more intriguing. A recent analysis pointed out that Addison could actually be one of the Vikings' most valuable trade assets. Not because he's underperforming, but because he still has untapped potential and strong market value. He's a former first-round pick. He's shown flashes of brilliance, but he hasn't quite crossed that elite threshold yet, especially with no 1,000-yard season so far and some inconsistencies in 2025. And that raises a big question. Is now the perfect time to sell high? Think about the situation. The Vikings already have Justin Jefferson as their clear WR1. That role is locked down. There's no debate there. So Addison becomes, what? A WR2 with upside? A developing weapon? Or a trade chip that could help fix other areas of the roster? Because let's be honest, this team still has needs, especially on defense. And if you can move a valuable asset to strengthen weaker areas, that's how contenders are built. There's already a blueprint for what a deal like this could look like. Recently, a similar trade saw a young receiver moved for a third-round pick and additional future assets. That's not just decent value. That's the kind of return that can reshape depth, add talent, and give your roster new life. So imagine this scenario. The Vikings flip Addison for defensive help or valuable draft capital. Suddenly, your roster becomes more balanced, more complete, more dangerous. But here's the twist. Would you actually want to see Addison go? Because trading talent is always a gamble. You might gain depth, but you could also lose a future star. And that's the risk Minnesota has to weigh very carefully. This is where fans come in. Because this decision, it's not just about numbers, it's about identity. It's about what kind of team the Vikings want to be moving forward. Do you stack weapons and overwhelm defenses? Or do you build a more complete, balanced roster? There's no easy answer here. But one thing is clear, the Vikings are in a much better position than they were just a year ago. You've got Justin Jefferson locked in on a deal that now looks like a steal. You've got flexibility with the salary cap. And you've got valuable assets that can be used to improve the team even further. That's how smart franchises operate. And let's not ignore the timing of all this. The wide receiver market is exploding right now. Prices are going up. Contracts are getting bigger. Which means the Vikings made their move at exactly the right moment. They didn't wait. They didn't hesitate. They secured their superstar before the market went crazy. And now, they're reaping the benefits. So while other teams are dealing with massive cap hits and financial pressure, Minnesota is sitting in a position of strength. That's not luck. That's strategy. And as we look ahead to the upcoming season, this could play a huge role in how competitive this team really is. Because in today's NFL, it's not just about talent. It's about how you manage that talent. Contracts matter. Timing matters. Decisions matter. And right now, the Vikings are making the right ones. But I want to hear from you, Vikings Nation. Do you think Justin Jefferson is still the best wide receiver in the NFL, even if he's not the highest paid anymore? And what about Jordan Addison? Would you trade him for defensive help or keep building that offensive firepower? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. I read every single one. And if you're loving these Minnesota Vikings updates, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with every Vikings fan you know. Because trust me, this story is just getting started.